afternoon, Rattlers. Thank you for joining us again tonight. President Clark is on some official duties for the NAA of chartering a chapter in Long Island, New York. So he may be able to join us. If not, we're going to keep this rolling. This is our fifth or sixth installment of the Candidates Forum. So tonight we have the Office of Recording Secretary and Corresponding Secretary. So again, I'm Joy Davies, the chair of the Nominating Committee. I have one of our committee members tonight who will be our moderator. So you'll hear more from her about her in just a few minutes. So what I want you all to know is our qualifications and duties for the Office of Recording Secretary. The qualifications is an active dues-paying alumni member of the association the current year and one of the past 2 years. Proficient in the understanding and use of the English language, appropriate ability to read explicitly, ability to compile and compose documents with clarity, able to record, compile, compose, file, and distribute minutes in a timely fashion, amenable to fulfilling the duties until the end of the term, and to be a team player. The duties of the recording secretary is to record minutes of all meetings, serves as the official custodian of all documents, transmit all minutes, reports, committee reports, constitutional exchanges, etc. to chapters and executive board members within 60 days after meetings. Serves as one of the 3 authorized signatories on all checks, drafts, vouchers, and certified copies of acts of the association. The candidate for the Office of Recording Secretary is none other than attorney Reginald J. Mitchell Sr., and he is running unopposed. Candidate Mitchell, can you please wait? Next, the qualifications for corresponding secretary. The qualifications are active, dues-paying alumni member of the association the current year and one of the past 2 years, proficient in the understanding and use of the English language, ability to compile and compose documents with clarity, amenable to fulfilling the duties until the end of the term, and to be a team player. Their duties: to send notices to the membership announcing meetings, elections, etc. in a timely manner, prepares with the president and communicates to members of the executive board prior to meetings the order of business, conducts general correspondence of the association, excluding correspondence that is functionally proper to other offices or committees. We have 2 candidates for the Office of Corresponding Secretary. Morgan Culler, can you please wave your hand? Thank you for joining us. And we have Eleanor McCoy. Candidate McCoy, please wave your hand. Thank you. So again, these candidate forms are recorded. They can be found at the official FAMU National Alumni Association YouTube page. If you are an active dues-paying members, all of those links have also been sent along with all information containing the candidates forum as well as the election timeline to your email. So the links to the recordings, as well as the any promotional marketing material from our candidates have been posted in those emails. The questions that have been heard in each one of the candidates forums were sent in by alumni. So they were not generated by the committee. So that deadline for those questions was February 19, 2022. So we do not take any live questions at all. So we will begin with the introduction of our tonight's moderator. So we have Dr. Sarah. She is a member of the nominating committee representing the Northeast region. She is an advocate for mental health awareness and works as a clinician that specializes in the care of women of color that have shared experiences. Dr. Sarah Williams is the owner of Covenant Way Clinical Counseling and the host of her own television show. She was appointed to the Chesapeake, Virginia Board of Commissioners in 2019. She holds a PhD in education from Capella University, a Master of Science in Counseling from Liberty University, and of course, a Bachelor of Science in Sociology from our beloved university, Florida A&M University. She is a widow and she is the mother of twins. And we are looking forward to hearing from her now. Dr. Sarah, you now have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that introduction. And it's always exciting to be among my fellow Rattlers. Even though we're in this virtual space, it still feels wonderful. In this time of political unrest, upheaval, pandemic, we have our friends and we have our FAMU. And that's what's helping us get through all of this. And so tonight's forum is very important because the recording secretary and the correspondence secretary are essentially the backbone of our chapters. They have a very important role. And so for tonight, I actually have big shoes to fill because my prior moderators all did such a wonderful job. So I'm super nervous, so just please bear with me. And I have a script here, so I want to make sure that I do everything right. And these are my moderator ground rules. The ground rules for this evening have been reviewed in advance by our candidates. Each candidate will have 1 minute and 30 seconds for an opening statement that will provide insight into who they are. Candidates may choose not to use all of their 1 minute and 30 seconds. The timekeeper will hold up a sign on their screen when it is 30 seconds and a stop sign when time is up. After opening statements have been made, questions for the candidates will be taken from the ones submitted. At the end of the question period, candidates will be able to make a brief 1 minute closing statement. Again, candidates may choose not to use all of their 1 minute. We are scheduled to conclude no later than 7 p.m. So we will begin, candidates. I'm so excited for you. So we will begin with the opportunity for you to tell us about yourself. And we will start with our candidate Culler. That's Morgan Culler. I think you're on mute. There we go.
Sorry. Yes, I am Morgan Culler. I'm currently the current corresponding secretary or assistant corresponding secretary. And I have been in this role for 2.5 years. And I am looking to continue in this role as a corresponding secretary. My primary goal is to increase the number of young alumni support that we have. And I think that that's beneficial because we need the people in my generation to get involved. I think it's important. And as I have in this role, I have been able to have the alumni association or the support of young alumni. I was able to have the support of the young alumni brunch. I started that. I've been sick all day, so I'm a little flustered right now. I didn't expect to go first, but I was able to have the first alumni brunch with the support of Dr. DJ Artistic, who is a staunch national alumni supporter. I have had him contribute to us and be a super supporter of us, and with him contribute to continue to branch out and to support us. And I think it's super important. I think that through my reign, through social media and all of those things, and just continuing to reach out, I think that's where our bread and butter is going to be. With him, I think we can continue to build our support. I think it's important that's where we need to reach out. That's the generation that we're missing. And I really think, because I am and I have been in that generation, I think we can continue to reach out to us, bring us on, and bridge that gap. My platform is bridging innovation with tradition, bridging tradition with innovation, through social media, through emails. One of my platforms is creating newsletters, monthly newsletters, to where old alumni can ask questions to new alumni, to kind of have that where that information is kind of getting lost monthly. And so if we're able to commit to submitting those through submitting those questions, we can submit those questions, and I will be able to produce a notification or email something to older alumni, to where they can respond and they can see the answers to those questions, where they don't have to just wonder what's going on this month or things of that nature. And so I think it's important that we have that availability to younger alumni to what's going on.
And I think we are losing connection a little bit. Thank you so much for that introduction. And we will make sure that I'm not sure if you're seeing something on your screen to kind of give you an idea of the time limit, and making sure that all of our candidates have equal opportunity. Okay, next, we are so excited to hear Eleanor McCoy. Tell us about yourself.
Thank you. And again, I have 1 minute and 30 seconds. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. Greetings. I am a native Floridian, second generation FAMU graduate, with other family who have taught and attended Florida A&M University. I'm also a Navy brat. While a student at FAMU, I was a proud member of the MEAC champion FAMU women's tennis team and a Scholar Athlete of the Year. I served as SBI Forum Profiles President, Second Vice President, and Community Service Chair of the Presidential Scholars Association, member of the National Beta Club, and Miss Truth Hall. I have always dared to challenge myself beyond my comfort zone, met challenges head on, and have great attention to detail and follow through. Upon graduating magna cum laude from FAMU School of Business and Industry with a BS degree in Business Administration and an industrial engineering minor, I pursued a career in database marketing and marketing research. Since then, I became a distinguished alumnus in community service, a life member of the National Alumni Association, and now for more than a decade, I have shown support of the NAA through both donations and active volunteerism. For example, I was second vice president of the Greater Orlando Alumni Chapter, which is the position I continue to serve in now, president and organizer of the Kentucky Alumni Chapter, FAMU NAA Midwest Region Vice President, member at large, and athletics chair. I've also been a showcase moderator and member of several national committees. While serving in these capacities, I co-hosted a National Alumni Convention in Louisville, Kentucky, helped establish a social media, print, and television presence for the Midwest region, and ultimately helped facilitate increased financial giving to the university. I stand on a platform of reachable, reliable, and relevant. Reachable in terms of being clearly heard and accessible to multiple audiences, reliable in terms of doing my homework, proofing information so that it's accurate, timely, and effective with the necessary approvals, and relevant in terms of being informative and actionable, all for the better of FAMU alumni and for the continued advancement of the university. So as you've heard, I'm proven, I'm thorough, I'm timely, I'm effective, and I'm clear, and I would appreciate your vote.
Thank you so very much, Ms. McCoy. That is amazing. And now for our, and of course, not last but not least, our gentleman of the minute, Mr. Reginald Mitchell, if you would tell us about yourself.
Good evening. My name is Reginald Mitchell, and I'm a 1988 cum laude graduate of the School of Business and Industry and the College of Arts and Sciences with BS degrees in 1988. I have served while I was at FAMU as Student National Alumni Association President, Student Body President, and Senate President, amongst a number of offices during that time at Florida A&M. I obtained my law degree at the University of Minnesota, where I got the law, the JD, and the Master of Business Administration degree in 1995 and 6, respectively. I am currently the Director of Academic Success and Bar Preparation while I'm doing an American Council on Education Fellowship at Howard University. And I'm also a donations officer for the College of Law. Finally, in the National Alumni Association, I have served for 9 years as General Counsel, and I've also served 2 years as Recording Secretary previously. I have chaired the Bylaws Committee for a number of years and did major revisions to the bylaws in the National Alumni Association Constitution. I chaired the Audit Committee. I currently chair the Budget Committee and have done so for about 9 years. And I'm also chaired the Media and Technology Committee and beg Dr. Roberson to take that over and take it to great heights as he's done. And I've also served on the, bylaws audit and media and technology, and that would be it. And so my plan is to do all of the required duties and the bylaws and the Constitution, and with my knowledge of the law, to make sure FAMU National Alumni Association stays in compliance with its own bylaws and Constitution, state and federal statutes, and university regulations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So now that we've had an opportunity to learn who our candidates are, we are now going to move forward and allow each candidate to provide us their opening statement. And we will begin with Morgan Culler.
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, perfect. As the current assistant corresponding secretary, I again think it's super necessary that we incorporate the younger generation. As the current assistant corresponding secretary, I have assisted and I have seen what it takes to be a part of the National Alumni Association for the past 2.5 years. I have some the person submitting producing all of the social media platforms, everything that you see on social media, and some of the emails that you have received. I am the person who allows that, or who submits that, and who processes that. And some of the questions that come through, I answer some of those questions, and what I plan on continuing to do, and what I want to continue to do is, it's kind of that same thing, but I also want to implement a monthly FAQ and a newsletter. So all alumni everywhere, they're aware of what's coming in the next month, or the next 2 months, if you will, of what they can expect from the Alumni Association, from the and from FAMU as a whole. That way everyone is in the know. With the FAQ, we often receive a lot of the same questions, and so I think that it is necessary to implement a monthly FAQ. So that way everyone's questions are being answered and such. And so I think that while bridging the gap, even though I'm one of the youngest people running right now, I think it's important to incorporate that.
Yes, unfortunately, that's your time, but thank you so much for your opening statement. Now we will move forward and we will have an opening statement from Eleanor McCoy.
Thank you. I'd like to repeat my platform, which is to be reachable, reliable, and relevant in the sense of having communications clearly heard and accessible to multiple audiences, regardless of location, access to resources, or various generational experiences and levels of learning. I believe in having to create, or I would like to create, the right communications mix that reaches everyone, regardless of where they are, generationally or location, geographically. I'd like to be reliable, and I am reliable if you talk to people that know me, as in having done this type of work again. I have done it for the Midwest region. I have done it for my chapters, and starting a new chapter, you essentially fulfill all roles until you get the officers filled, until the chapter is able to function on its own. And so I have done the work of communicating to draw new members to a chapter, to increase the number to a point where it can be chartered. I have walked the walk that I talk. In terms of being relevant, I want information to be informative and actionable so that when read, people have the ability to take action regardless of the form in which they receive it. And I vow to fulfill my duties in terms of fundraising, image building, recruitment, and government relations as a member of the board, especially image building, which is what this particular position stands on. As an ex officio member of the Public Relations Committee, I expect to be a part of that image building foundation and take the board forward. Thank you.
You are so welcome. Thank you for that opening statement. And now we will have an opening statement from Mr. Reginald Mitchell.
Yes, again, my plan of action as recording secretary, if elected and when elected, is to make sure that I, as required by state law, so for all direct support organizations, our meetings are open and it's required that we keep our minutes accurate and they're available for public record. So I plan to tediously and meticulously take copious notes of all, particularly all action items taken at the executive board level, and make those, my plan is to try and make them available at least, if not 24 or 48 hours after each meeting, so that if anybody who misses the meeting or is interested in what took place can get an accurate reflection of what we discussed and what we decided. And so I'll get those done on an ongoing basis each month as we have our meetings, regular and special meetings. Our annual meeting and all the year's meetings are required by our audit to be turned into our auditor, and I'll make sure that gets done in a timely manner. And all the rules and regulations of compliance, I'll make sure that all officers turn in all records, all chapter presidents turn in all records as required in the bylaws. And finally, I will make sure that I serve as ex officio member of the Budget Committee, the Public Relations and Image Building Committee, and the Media and Technology Committee, and I plan to do well. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. It sounds like we do have some very steep competition here by listening to the opening statements. I did want to make sure that I bring attention to our nominating chair, Ms. Davies. She is providing us with our timekeeping so that once you're providing your responses, you can kind of keep note of where you are in your responses so you won't have to be interrupted. Okay, moving along. Now we'll move to the questions that have been submitted by alumni. Candidates will be limited to answers not to exceed 1 minute. Candidates may decline to answer a question if they choose. If a candidate wishes to follow up, they may do so for 1 minute at the discretion of the moderator. The first question: what do you think are the most important skills you should have in this position? What do you think are the most important skills you should have in this position? And we will begin with candidate McCoy.
Thank you for the question. The most important skills for this position I believe, are communication skills, technological skills, and also relational skills. Those three, I think, are key for this position. Communication skills, whether verbal, written, or through other mediums, I believe is important because you can use the combination of all of those specific skills to reach people where they are. Technological skills, because of course, in situations like we face with the pandemic, you have to be able to adjust and to communicate just as effectively as you would in any level. And of course, relational skills. Thank you.
Thank you. So now that same question will go to Reginald Mitchell.
Yes, I believe the skills necessary to be recording secretary are reading comprehension, English composition, use of technology, and the ability to results-oriented, the ability to have tenacity to get things done in a timely manner. So my plan is to work with the technology chair to, when I created as previous recording secretary, I created what was called the compliance matrix to make sure all chapters were aware of all the reports they're supposed to turn in on a monthly and annual basis. And I bring that technology back on YM and various applications for storage. And so they'll be available to all chapter presidents and immediately have an updated status of what they are expected to do. And so I'll keep people abreast of all the things that they're required to turn in, what they've turned in, and what things that may be missing. So it especially helps new officers that are not yet used to all of the things they have to report. And that is my plan for recording secretary.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Okay,
you.
and now we will ask candidate Culler to respond to that question, please. You're on mute.
So I definitely think some of the most important skills are communication, right? But also being able to, when you were talking about communication, being able to get the point across as clearly and as quickly as possible. Because what we don't want is to receive a ton of emails listing a bunch of different opportunities or suggestions that we've kind of been receiving. And so we want to get straight to the point, clear and concise. I think that that's super important when we're talking about emails, especially when we're talking about connecting to a vast, a couple of different generations. So communication is super important when we're talking about corresponding secretary and being able to connect with generations, a couple of different generations, right? It's not just one. And I think that as the current assistant corresponding secretary, I have noticed that whether it's email or phone calls or anything, the overreaching essential capability that we need to have is being able to communicate efficiently and effectively. That's what I have seen in the current position that I have.
Thank you so much for your response. Now we're moving along to our second question. Rate your verbal and written communication abilities in a professional setting. So rate your verbal and written communication abilities in a professional setting. And we will begin with candidate Mitchell.
I would have to humbly, in an unbiased fashion, rate myself as having an A+ grade on effective communication. I have a great deal of experience, obviously from my training. English was my favorite subject besides history. And so I have a lot of experience in communicating information, written articles, multiple presentations, and getting reports done in a timely fashion and completing a docket, a legal docket whenever it's required. And so I would do the same thing I've been trained to do, is get information to folks on a timely basis with the myriad of things that are required to be reported, and in some cases, additional things that are not required, but very beneficial to all our membership. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Now we will ask our candidate Culler to respond.
I am a published journalist, for one. I have a degree in broadcast journalism, and I am a supply chain professional. And so a lot of my background and my current work experience, professional experience, excuse me, deals with communication. And so my primary goal, whether it's in my work life or in my professional life as a FAMU alumni and getting the word out, is to make sure that the word is conveyed clearly and concisely. That way there's no question. We're always answering the whys, the 5 whys. And so that is my experience. That is what I try to tackle every day. And so I would, if we're rating on a scale of 1 to 10, I would definitely give myself a 9.5 because nobody is perfect. And so I strive for clear and concise communication, making sure that all questions are answered. And if they are not, I try to let you know all that, for one, I don't of saying I don't know. And I think that's important in any kind of communication, being aware of where you stand. But once I recognize that I don't know, going out to reach out to figure out who does know the answer. And that's what I will bring to the table for the FAMU National Alumni Association.
Thank you so much. And now we will hear from candidate McCoy.
Recording.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, it's rate your verbal and written communication abilities in a professional setting.
I would also rate myself a 9.5. I am a distinguished Toastmaster. And as many people have learned, Toastmasters teaches you about leadership and communications. In that capacity, I have used my skills in my professional setting as a market researcher, as a database marketer, as a vendor risk manager to communicate technical information to non-technical audiences, to train individuals, and to establish operational settings in which employees can function. As a distinguished Toastmaster, I was also a regional director in which I used those skill sets to help establish new Toastmasters clubs, to help train officers, and to teach them what Toastmasters teaches all of us on how to communicate and how to continue to grow and learn as communicators and as leaders. And so that's why I would rate myself a 9.5. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, our next question, and this is an important one. What are the most important components for a successful executive board meeting? What are the most important components for a successful executive board meeting? And we will begin with candidate Culler.
I think as a corresponding secretary, being on a couple of different executive board meetings thus far, I think that the most important is being able to know what the people want to know. You can listen all day long, but you have to be able to think as a constituent of the National Alumni Association, as somebody who is just a member, right? So for instance, for the Jackson State game, where is the hotel? When are we staying there? What are the dates? What are the rates? Things of that nature. We have to be able to think in that mindset and be able to think what the people want as the corresponding secretary, and send out that type of information. You'll get a couple of questions, which I have seen and which we have seen on the board, but being able to put yourself in a different set of shoes as a member of the association who does not have all of the answers. I think that is one of the most important things that we can do as a member of the board, is thinking of those who don't know, and thinking of those who don't know who are a part of the younger generation, because there are a lot of younger generations. And I say us, I'm going to say us because I am a part of that generation. Thinking of us as, we don't know where to get that information from, and how do we get that information? I think that is one of the most important things, is getting that information out to the younger generation, because the older people know where to go.
Thank you for your response. I appreciate that. Okay. What are the most important components for a successful executive board meeting, candidate Mitchell?
Yes, I think firstly, you have to give proper notice to all members that are able to attend, and even the public are invited to attend executive board meetings. You need to have a clearly communicated agenda that's shared and available and subject to amendment so that everybody knows in advance all of the items that we're expected to get through during the course of the meeting. You got to have a good sergeant at arms that keeps order and decorum to make sure everybody gets a proper opportunity to speak after they've been recognized by the chair. And you have to, by law, keep accurate minutes that reflect especially all the action items that have been taken and even some other important items that the board will need to know so that in the future, if it's not taking action upon it, they can take action upon it later. So I think those are all of the components of a successful executive board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we will hear from candidate McCoy.
Thank you. Similarly, my thoughts were for a successful board meeting, you need a meeting agenda, preferably a timed meeting agenda, since you have limited time, with key components that must be discussed. The most important items. Agendas are often kind of overlooked in some cases. People think they're thrown together, but it takes time to put together a well-constructed agenda that helps to meet the objectives of the meeting and that gets the most out of the meeting. I also agree that meeting minutes, the recorded meeting minutes are a key component. At the beginning of a meeting, you're reviewing previous minutes. And of course, during the meeting, you're taking new minutes that need to be for the record, help to move the meeting and the board forward. And thirdly, I think timely and orderly discussion. The discussion, hearing from everyone involved, getting the feedback from everyone that's a part of the alumni, that's a part of the organization, and even guests, helps to determine the best decision-making of any board. So those three components, the agenda, the meeting minutes, and the discussion.
Thank you very much. Now for our last question, how will you ensure that the National Alumni Association has appropriate backups for record keeping? And we will begin with candidate McCoy.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes. How will you ensure that the National Alumni Association has appropriate backups for record keeping?
Thank you. Appropriate backups for record keeping can be made through electronic recordings. Typically, the minutes are written, but because oftentimes in a very detailed board meeting, shorthand may be taken, something might be missed. So it's helpful to have a backup recording, electronic recording of those minutes. As with Zoom and other technological advances as we have today, there could be video recording as well. And so as a Toastmaster, we're taught to have multiple backups for a meeting. And I would agree that in that capacity, I would have both video and audio recording if possible.
Okay. Thank you. So now we will hear from candidate Culler.
Yes, I think it's, I mean, as McCoy just said, I think it's super important. And as we know, Zoom is recorded. And so when we record these meetings, I think it's important to save them. Not just have a written notification or a written information, but also you have the digital. I think that's super important as we continue on, and we currently do that. I don't necessarily think that it's necessary to have a visual or to have the video, but it's always necessary to have the audio. And so I think that that's super important. And so if members want to hear what was going on, if we can provide that information, then I think that that is necessary and can be warranted. But I definitely think that all recordings are necessary. And as we stand today, all National Alumni Association executive board meetings are recorded. And so we do have that. And I think it's important that we continue to do that.
Thank you so much for your response. We will now hear from candidate Mitchell.
Yes, I would do, as has already been mentioned, I would keep electronic and PDF copies of all minutes of board meetings. I'd also keep it in the original form. I would put it in Microsoft Word. After I kept minutes of each meeting, I'd make sure that I send it out officially by the NAA official email address, so it's also out there in cyberspace in case something happens where your computer crashes or such. I'd also work with the technology chair to make sure we could use applications like Dropbox or OneDrive to make sure we would store all minute meetings recorded in that folder. And then again, we give it to the internal auditor and external auditor copies of all meeting minutes, and we make sure it's available in the Office of Alumni Affairs. And so we would use all technology and appropriate meticulous filing methods to make sure all minutes and records are kept orderly. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. And thank all our candidates today for responding to the questions. And now you have your final moment to make a closing statement. We'll now ask for a 1-minute closing statement from each candidate if you wish to do so. The order of the closing statement is the reverse of the opening statements. So, and now for the closing statement from candidate Mitchell.
Yes. Well, I thank you for having me. Even though I'm unopposed and running for recording secretary, I take this position very seriously. And so if elected and when elected, I plan to do all of the things I've previously done and even add some new important duties to this position. And so I would obviously follow all the things listed in the bylaws. I have a passion for trying to make sure that our alumni giving rate is increased. And so that is a campaign that I would take up with the fundraising chair to ensure that all members of the association in one way or another give to the association. But I plan to be, as I've previously been, meticulous, tenacious, and results oriented in getting all the proper information to all of the appropriate persons in a timely manner. Thank you very much. And please vote for Reginald Mitchell for recording secretary of the NAA. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Now we will have a closing statement from candidate McCoy.
Thank you. I am Eleanor L. McCoy, a legacy Rattler and life member of the FAMU NAA, who is proven, thorough, timely, effective, and clear. Understanding the importance of communications to the effectiveness and promotion of positive imaging of the National Alumni Association and FAMU, I have every intention of being reachable to all generations, reliable and relevant as your next FAMU NAA recording secretary, and all for the betterment of FAMU alumni and for the continued advancement of our university. I will fully support the board at the direction of the president. I will work effectively to lead the organization. And with your vote, we can make all of this a reality. Thank you for your support. I look forward to serving.
Thank you, candidate McCoy. Now we will have a closing statement from candidate Culler.
Yes, as I mentioned, I am the current assistant corresponding secretary. I know the ropes. I know what it takes to be in this role. And as a young alumni, my stress and what I am trying to do is reach out to the younger generation to bring my generation on board, to understand the importance of giving back. And I think that because of me and through my network, as well as the tying into the network of the older generation, we can make this happen. It's not going to happen unless we bridge that gap. And I think that's super important in what we're trying to do here. I want to continue to build upon where we are and to make it greater. And I think that with electing me and working with the board who I've worked with for the past 2.5 years, we can definitely get there. I have worked with the Alumni Association thus far, and I want to continue to do so. So I would appreciate your vote come April 5th and until the end of the time. Thank you so much for your consideration.
Thank you so much, candidate Culler, and thank all of our candidates. You did a beautiful job. This concludes the moderated portion for this week's Candidates Forum. We will now have closing remarks from President Clark if he is present.
No, he is not present, so he is still tending to official FAMU NAA duties. Again, you have heard from our candidates. Candidate Mitchell knows the role. He has served in that position. He has served in several positions within the NAA. He is still ready to work and serve and he is running unopposed. So again, he would like your support. One, you know the election timeline for the ballot. We have two candidates. You've heard from both of those candidates. They are both knowledgeable in the roles and the duties of the office of corresponding secretary. Again, we have Eleanor McCoy representing I believe, Greater Orlando, and then we have Morgan Culler on our Space Coast. So again, you've heard from them. You heard the questions that have been submitted by our candidates. Make sure you look out for the election email. Your ballots will go out soon. Thank you for joining us. We have one more candidates forum next Sunday. Join us at 6 p.m. You will hear from the financial secretary and our candidates for treasurer. So please make sure you join us next Sunday. Thank you for joining us and have a magnificent week. Thank you.
Bye.